We come in a variety of colors, shapes, and sizes. Some of us grow in bunches, some of us grow alone. Some of us are cupped inward, and some of us spread ourselves out wide. Some of us are older and dried and tougher than we appear. Some of us are still in bud. Some of us grow low to the ground, and some of us stretch towards the sun. Some of us feel like weeds, sometimes. Some of us carry seeds, sometimes. Some of us are prickly, sometimes. Some of us smell, well, sometimes. But all of us are beautiful. What a bouquet of people we are. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. I'm Deborah Schmidt. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I will be your worship associate this morning. If this is your first time here, we are delighted that you have joined us. This is a welcoming congregation, and we are always working on how to better welcome and care for one another. Whoever you are, we welcome you in the fullness of who you are. As we begin, we want to acknowledge that this church occupies land in Huichin, the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. We understand that we continue to benefit from the seizure and occupation of this land. We acknowledge and embrace our responsibility to take restorative action. We affirm that this is deeply felt, and we commit our congregation to be in right relationship with Indigenous communities, aligning in solidarity, supporting Indigenous projects, and caring properly for the land. Please take a moment now to prepare yourself and your space for our time together. You might bring a candle and a way to light it so that you can join in the chalice lighting from home. Now, let us kindle our candles or the inner flames of our hearts with the words of Amy Zucker Morgenstern. Within the heart of the flower, the fountain of beauty. Within the heart of the community, a fire that warms and dances. Within the heart of each of us, a spark of the spirit of life. I invite you now to share in the comments where you are by writing, "I carry the flame in," whatever town or city you may be joining us from. And now, please join in singing our opening song, number 246, "Come Sing a Song with Me." The words will appear on the screen.
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Please join with me in saying our covenant. We covenant to build a religious community guided by love and sustained by respectful relationships. Believing that building healthy relationships is a spiritual practice, we aim to listen appreciatively, speak with care, express gratitude, honor our differences, and assume good intentions. We endeavor to communicate directly, honestly, and compassionately, particularly when we are in conflict. When we hurt one another, we will try to forgive, make amends, and reconnect in a spirit of love. In celebration of the common purpose that unites us, we will do our best to abide by this covenant.
White coral bells upon a slender stalk, lilies of the valley
In the city of Prague, in the land of Czechoslovakia, in the year 1923, there was a church. But the building did not look much like a church. It had no bells, no spires, no stained glass windows. It had no organ to make beautiful music. It didn't even have a piano. It had no carvings of wood or statues of stone. It had no candles or chalices. It had no flowers. The church did have some things. It had 4 walls and a ceiling and a floor. It had a door and a few windows. It had some wooden chairs, but that was all, plain and simple. Except the church also had people who came to it every Sunday. It had a minister, and his name was Norbert Čapek. He had been the minister at the plain and simple church for 2 years. Every Sunday, Minister Čapek went to the church, and he spoke to the people while they listened, sitting quietly and still in those hard wooden chairs. When he was done speaking, the people talked a little bit among themselves, and then they went home. And that was all. No music, no candles, no food, not even coffee or donuts. Springtime came to the city of Prague, and Norbert Čapek went out for a stroll. The rains had come, the birds were singing, and flowers were blooming all over the land. The world was beautiful. Then an idea came to him, simple and clear, plain as day. The next Sunday he asked all the people in the church to bring a flower or a budding branch or even a twig. Each person was to bring one. "What kind?" they asked. "What color? What size?" "You choose," he said. "Each of you choose what you like." And so, on the next Sunday, which was the first day of summer, the people came with flowers of all different colors and sizes and kinds. There were yellow daisies and red roses. There were white lilies and blue asters, dark-eyed pansies and light green leaves, pink and purple, orange and gold. There were all those colors and more. Flowers filled all the vases, and the church wasn't so plain and simple anymore. Minister Čapek spoke to the people while they listened, sitting quiet and still in those hard wooden chairs. "These flowers are like ourselves," he said, "different colors and different shapes and different sizes, each needing different kinds of care, but each beautiful, each important and special in its own way." When he was done speaking, the people talked a little bit among themselves, and then they each chose a different flower from the vases before they went home. And that was all. And it was beautiful, plain and simple as the day.
There's room enough. Oh, there's room enough. If everybody made a little space right by their side, oh, there'd be room enough. There's love enough. Oh, there's love enough. If everybody folded out their arms open wide, oh, there'd be love enough. I'm never gonna let you go. I'm never gonna let you go. I'm always right behind you. I'm always right behind you. I'm never gonna let you go. I'm never gonna let you go. I'm always right behind you. When I go. Oh, and make some room for me by the sea when I go. And if I'm right behind you, you can fall back, you can let go. I'm right behind you. And if I'm never gonna let you right go, I'm never gonna let you go. I'm always right behind you. I'm always right behind you. I'm never gonna let you go. I'm never gonna let you go. I'm always right behind you. When we go, oh, when we go, just tell me that you love me and make some room for me by the sea when we go.
We now enter the time in our service that we make for our hearts and our spirits, for the cares and concerns that we may be carrying. We lift up and hold the joys, the sorrows, and the challenges that we may be facing, either ourselves or in our community. And it is especially in this past week that our community has opened its heart and arms wide as we have faced the death of one of our number unexpectedly, losing Bridget and holding Corinne and her family in our hearts. During our time of silence this morning, I invite you to share in the comments joys or sorrows or significant milestones of your own. I invite us to hold these cares and to hold our care for each other and for Corinne and her family in the compassionate embrace that we can as this loving community. Let us join now in a time of meditation. Our reading is by Adam Lawrence Dyer, and I'll read through it twice. The purpose of the open flower is not about the present hour. Instead, it hints at legacies and beauty's hope for what can be. We too are called to be the flower that buds along the fragile bower, where beauty, hope, and what can be, for now, may be but filigree. So where the rose in spring may flower, bathed in sun and quenched by shower, we grow to show posterity, bright blooming through adversity. The purpose of the open flower is not about the present hour. Instead, it hints at legacies and beauty's hope for what can be. We too are called to be the flower that buds along the fragile bower, where beauty, hope, and what can be for now may be but filigree. So where the rose in spring may flower, bathed in sun and quenched by shower, we grow to show posterity, bright blooming through adversity.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open.
I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
I know this rose will open.
Good morning. Hello, beloveds. Hello to June. Hello to sunshine. Hello to summer. Hello to beauty. Hello to all those lovely flowers that you sent in. Hello to life. And hello, hello, hello to you. I'm the Reverend Catherine Boyle. My pronouns are she, hers, hers. I'm the Director of Family Ministry here at UUCB. We're so excited to be making history here today at UUCB with our first service outside since the pandemic began, alongside with this online service. In the future, we plan to stream service as it is happening, so please look forward to that. That has been one of the few bright spots in this pandemic, our rapid ramp up into this online space. A congregant recently told me, I'm so excited about going back to church, but I have to admit, it's nice to be on my couch on Sunday morning with a coffee cup in one hand and a kitty cat in my lap. Ultra cozy church. I'm here for it, as I am here for air hugging you in the parking lot. I am here for us meeting in person or online. However, we can remain connected to each other here at church is absolutely wonderful. Though I have to say, we're still trying to figure out how to make coffee virtually pourable. I'm wondering if that's going to be available on the blockchain anytime soon. I suppose, every human has a particular way of drinking coffee, even if that includes not drinking it at all. Perhaps you drink it black, or maybe you make a point to see how much stuff you can fit into the mug until it overflows. Or maybe it's only light roast for you. Once there was a couple named Lily and Rachel, and they had their preferred coffee recipe of choice, of course. It was black for Lily and half with a little bit of sugar for Rachel. And their morning ritual was precise, always at 6:15 a.m. and always in these souvenir mugs that they bought on their way to their honeymoon. They were bright red and they had the words, "It ain't easy being cheesy. Visit Wisconsin," in cursive written across it. Now, these mugs may not have the same sentimental value to me or you, but they were very, very valuable and heart pieces to Lily and Rachel. In this one particular morning, as Lily reached for one of the mugs, it slipped from her hand and fell to the floor, shattering, breaking into pieces. And in that moment, Lily's heart dropped and she fell to her knees. Rachel came running in and said, "I heard a crash." And Lily holds up the broken pieces of the mug with tears in her eyes and says, "I broke it." "It's just a mug," Rachel consoled her. "Yes," said Lily, "but it was our mug. It represents our trip, our love, our lives together. And now it's broken." At that moment, Rachel was quiet. And then she slowly gathered the pieces from Lily. And then she took Lily by the hand and said, "Lily, it is still our mug. The trip is still there. The love is still there because we are still here. We just have to patch up this mug." Now, the story of Lily and Rachel, of breaking things and putting them back together, has been happening for a long enough time now that there's a name for it. And this name is called kintsugi. And kintsugi is the Japanese practice of fixing broken ceramics or pottery by lighting the broken pieces in gold and putting them back together. Therefore, you have the whole piece lined in gold, where before there was brokenness, there is now beauty. However, I don't think kintsugi is limited to only pottery. I think it applies to our humanity. For finding beauty in brokenness, in difficult times, the central message of kintsugi is also the central message of flower communion. And more so, if you do not find beauty, create it by putting it back together. Reverend Chopek's call for us to seek beauty in the mundane is a spiritual practice that reminds us that even in the ordinary parts of our lives, making a meal or pouring a cup of coffee, to acknowledge and appreciate beauty is a life-sustaining and life-giving practice. It's a message, it's a reminder for us to step outside of our human concerns for a minute and recognize this great universe, this great cosmic story that we are a part of. These moments of mindfulness, of appreciation, of recognizing the small wonders of this world is so healthy for a soul that exists in a world where the clouds of despair are so heavy. Finding beauty isn't denying the reality that life is hard. Oh no, it is accepting it and saying there is joy anyways. It is finding resilience. It is cultivating resilience in these micro moments that carry us on. These moments, they help us recognize the golden liners in our own lives. We recognize who brings us beauty and who sparks joy when we see them. And we can also look back and see where we are the gold in other people's life, where we shine. And appreciating these moments, it's coming together and taking the broken pieces of this world and building something beautiful and new together. I have a feeling lots of us are patched up, maybe not with gold, not how we feel yet, but after this year in pandemic. But I look forward to not building El Dorado with you guys, but building this beloved community together, both here and in person and all around. We may have not found the beauty we expected in 2020, but we have made our own, and we will continue making our own in 2021 and beyond. Blessed be, beloveds.
With today's Flower Communion service being a service for all ages, I'm going to start with a bit of story time because all ages, all of our ages, can use a good story. So please sit back and enjoy. The Garden, a Frog and Toad story by Arnold Lobel. Frog was in his garden. Toad came walking by. "What a fine garden you have, Frog," he said. "Yes," said Frog, "it is very nice, but it was hard work." "I wish I had a garden," said Toad. "Well, here are some flower seeds," said Frog. "Plant them in the ground, and soon you will have a garden too." "How soon?" "Quite soon." Toad ran home. He planted the flower seeds. "Now, seeds," said Toad, "start growing." Toad walked up and down a few times. The seeds did not grow, obviously. Toad put his head close to the ground and said loudly, "Now, seeds, start growing." Toad looked at the ground again. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head very close to the ground and shouted, "Now, seeds, start growing." Frog came running off the path. "What's all this noise?" "My seeds will not grow," says Toad. "You're shouting too much. These poor seeds are afraid to grow. Leave them alone for a few days. Let the sun shine on them. Let the rain fall on them. Soon your seeds will start to grow." That night, Toad looked out of his window. "Drat, my seeds have not started to grow. They must be afraid of the dark." So Toad went out to his garden with some candles, or if it was particularly dry, flashlight, I'll read the seeds a story, then they will not be afraid. All the next day, Toad sang songs to his seeds. The next day, Toad read poems to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad played music for his seeds. Toad looked at the grounds. The seeds still did not start to grow. What shall I do? He cried. These must be the most frightened seeds in the whole wide world. Then Toad felt very, very tired and fell deep asleep. Toad, Toad, wake up, cried Frog, waking Toad up out of that deep sleep. Look at your garden. Toad looked at his garden. Little green plants had started coming up out of the ground. At last, my seeds have stopped being afraid to grow, but you were right, Frog. It was very hard work. Growing things is hard work. Maybe not what Toad ended up thinking the hard work was, but growing things is hard work. Or maybe let me put it a little differently. Growing things takes time and caring and attention. Okay, except mold. Mold tends to grow quite merrily on its own. When we talk about growing things and about growth, there are so many different things we could be talking about. It could be about plants and flowers and gardens like Toad's garden, or like the many flowers that folks sent pictures of in today. Growing plants, whether for pleasure or for food or for medicine or some combination of all of those, takes either cultivation and attention, or it takes the attention and care to find them in the wild. And of course, it takes rain too. I have an aloe plant outside at home that's been asking me for the artificial version of said rain. Growing families and friendships and relationships all takes work too, as does all the different types of growth that happen in a church community. It takes time, caring, and attention. How many of you have craved for that from others lately? Craved for time together, craved for caring, for attention. And how many of you have been happy to be able to give that to others too, to give them time, to give them caring, and to give them your attention, whether you've been able to do that in person or through one of our various ways of connecting with one another from a distance. There's a reading in the Gray Hymnal that I love about many of the ways that we need each other. It says, we need one another when we are afraid. We need one another when we have some sort of joyous news to share. We need one another when we need arms and hands to help prepare us for some challenging journey ahead. Now, while Toad's seeds probably didn't need him to bring them light when they were in night's darkness and read them a story, there are times when we do need that comfort, and we do need that story. His seeds probably didn't technically need the poetry or the songs, although it was raining in one of the pictures that went along with that, and they did need that. But poetry and songs and beauty and rhyme and music, these are nourishment for our souls that we do need. The reading closes with the line, all our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us. All our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us. Every single one of us needs the folks around us, both folks who may be around where you are sitting right now, as well as folks around you in other ways. We need one another, and you are most definitely needed. Just knowing that is a great big warm hug. Today, for our flower communion, as has been the tradition, if we want to call it that, for the past year, we're doing things a little differently. I know we've gotten to say that a whole lot lately. Today we're gathering, this is a cool different, we're gathering both online and we're gathering outdoors at the church, all sharing the UU Flower Communion at the same time. Our communion here is a virtual one, and the slideshow of flowers and drawings of flowers that you saw earlier were sent in by members of our church. And of course, that was Katya playing Waltz of the Flowers in the background. We've shared much in so many ways during the past year, as the flowers have gone through their many seasons. May both their beauty and their diversity remind us of the same, the beauty and diversity among us and throughout our world. It's been great being here for our flower communion.
In the spirit of loving community, we remind ourselves that UUCB and its community partners thrive with our gifts and support. We invite you now to make an offering. Each week, half our offerings are shared with a Good Neighbor organization who needs our financial support. This month, our Good Neighbor is Yanima Healing Circle and Supportive Services. The mission of Yanima Healing Circle is to provide comfort and strength to families impacted by gun violence in Richmond and the surrounding areas. I invite you to learn more from CEO DeWanda Joseph in the video following this message. Offerings of any value are received with gratitude. Details on how to give electronically will appear on your screen as our offertory begins. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is DeWanda Joseph. I am the CEO and founder of Yanima Healing Circle. We're located in Richmond, California. I want to give a big shout out to UUCB and thank you for selecting us for one of your grants. Yanima Healing Circle serves families who have been directly impacted by gun violence. As you can see behind me are a list of names of men and women in our community have died from gun violence. We serve over 100 families per year. We are still getting referrals even during this pandemic. We're really thankful we've been able to sustain services via Zoom. So we meet twice a month, the first and third Saturdays via Zoom, and we have up to 30 people that attend those groups. We're really grateful that that our organization has been able to maintain services. What we intend to do with our grant is to host a paint party so that we can get together. It's been over a year since we've seen each other face to face. We're going to look for an outdoor court where we can get together and paint and just socialize with one another. We'll have food catered in so we can just have a great time. Again, we want to say thank you, and we hope to hear from you soon, and we'll send pictures to let you see everything that took place.
Say, non si è marcita come flores.
Now, please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation, to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service. It's been so good to be together today in praise and song. As we leave our worship service and shift to our coffee hour on Zoom, I'd like to remind you to check out all the things that are available in our congregation by exploring our website, uucb.org. There you can find a link under News to the week ahead, our weekly email newsletter, which includes a list of activities, announcements, and contact information. And as we prepare to leave the worship service, here are a few things to note. First, be sure to save the date for our longtime church administrator Elisa Gould's retirement send-off, June 27th at 3:30 in the afternoon. Join us as we safely gather on the terrace to celebrate Elisa. We will shower upon her our love and appreciation for the 21 years she has dedicated to our congregation. Second, our service June 27th is General Assembly Sunday. Rather than creating our own online worship service, we will be tuning into the biggest Unitarian Universalist worship service of the year, taking place at our annual General Assembly. And last, on June 12th, from 3 to 5 p.m., you are invited to join Recess at UUCB. Come shoot some hoops, catch some rays, and share some laughs with church friends of all ages, outside at the UUCB parking lot by the field. See you there.
For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies, source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of ear and eye, for the heart and voice delight, for the mystic harmony
We close with words from the Reverend Norman Fabian Chopek. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendships as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationships, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of us all are needed to do thy work in this world.
Someone's been sending me flowers. Oh, what a sweet thing to do. Every new day brings another bouquet, and I don't know who to say thank you to. Sometimes they're thrown through my window, or down through my chimney they fall. Sometimes at night, when I've turned out my light, they come through a crack in my wall. Now that my house is a garden, bursting with blossom and bloom, I stand there for hours admiring my flowers. I'd like to lie down, but there just isn't room. Someone's been sending me flowers, more than I ever have had. Remarkable stuff, but enough is enough. If I see another bouquet, I'll go mad. Started by sending me bluebells. Oddly enough, they were gray. Each faded bloom had a nasty perfume. Besides being gray, they were paper mache. There followed a garland of fungus, and then as a tropical treat, they sent me a plant that proceeded to pant and later began to eat meat. The cactus corsage touched me deeply, a beautiful plant in its prime. I felt much the same when the rock garden came, one rock at a time. Somebody madly adores me. I know not whom to suspect, since I cannot afford to be madly adored. I do wish you'd stop sending flowers.